Hello again, and welcome to the Noble Father podcast. I am your host, Theophilus. Today is August the 19th of 2024, and thank you for joining me for another episode. It's been a bit of a long 2 days for me. I went to go see my dad yesterday, and this morning early, dropped him off at the airport, and he's off to United States and China again. So, yeah, those are always tricky kind of experiences for me. I feel like this morning, as I was, walking with him to the elevator, and then, down to the car to drop him off, that there's still this lingering feeling in the back of my mind, of like, every single trip that he takes could be the last time I ever see him. And you just never know, right? You just have to be present. You just never know. And so, this past week we also talked about legacy, right? If you had 5 years left to live, what would be the legacy that you leave behind? Are there things that are left undone that you need to get done? Or, is there people that you need to make amends to? Like, what would you do if you knew that you had 5 years left to live? And so, in that brief moment, I guess you could say, I felt like a child again, having to say goodbye to my dad yet again. I mean, he's not going for too long. He'll be back in the middle of September, which is, essentially a month from right now. But this is a person that's near and dear to my heart, and I care very deeply for him, and I know the work that he's doing. My dad, if you don't know my dad, he casts a really big shadow, and he's a man of impact, and I'm proud to have the dad that I have. He shows me how he leads, and I'm very much, this podcast is very much what it is because of his influence on my life. So last episode we closed off the Nyrin Charles story. It was a phenomenal story to cover, and I'm honored, to be able to live the life that I get to have, and also to be able to take part in things like that, magical moments like that. And if you still haven't listened to it, I highly recommend you do that. It is a very, very feel-good story, and one in which, probably will bring you to tears, as it brought me and my wife to tears as we were watching it. I wanted to, yesterday we finally got around to debriefing the retreat together. One of our members after the retreat drove out to Bella Bella, which is, kind of north of here, Vancouver, to go on an extended long fishing trip with his sponsor. And so we really didn't have time to really get together to talk about it. We did 2 meetups, since the retreat, and there was just not a lot of time for us to talk about it together, and we finally did that yesterday. One of our members wasn't able to be there, but we still kind of got to talk about the whole retreat. And so, kind of the timing of this episode to finally, to share the top 3 stories, top 3 stories. I think I said top 5 before, and yeah, maybe I'll add the other 2 in here right now as I'm going into it. I think 3 would be enough. I don't want these episodes to go too long. And so, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to share 3 photos, and, with each photo, I'm going to give kind of the context and why it was such a special moment for us, and really when it came to like figuring out which 3 to choose, it was difficult because there's so many wonderful moments, so many memories of it. And, one of the things that was said yesterday was that, the whole experience is like catching lightning in a bottle. And it's so fleeting, right? Because, even as we go back now, as we think about the whole retreat, if you go to journal it even the day of, you remove yourself from being present at the retreat. And so, yes, things are fresh and you want to write it down, but really it took me, so to give you an example, it took me 7+ hours to write, the journal entry for Charles's first day here in Canada. Excuse me. I had a really early morning start. Ugh. I don't know how many podcasts would actually do that and not edit it out. Yeah, I really don't care. So yeah, really early start. And that journal entry took me 7 hours to write with all the details. It was more fresh than it was, and it was amazing because a few days go by and you kind of lose details of the second day and the third and the fourth and the fifth, and it just gets exponentially worse. And so, you can't really journal this the day of either, right? Because then you're removing yourself from being present and you're not living that day to its fullest. And so, during the retreat, we didn't have the time. So even if and one of our members brought a gift, and it was actually a journal. He gave us the gift of a journal. I didn't share this last week, but, we all kind of signed it kind of like a yearbook. And, his suggestion was for us to journal it. Journal it as we go along. If we had received it, I think it wouldn't have really mattered much, because I think if we were to go to journal every single day, we remove ourselves from each other, and that's just not how the retreat would have unfolded. I don't know if I could devote 7 hours to journal everything from that day. I just couldn't get it all out. And so, the whole lightning in a bottle thing is it totally rings true in this situation. I want to go right into it. I really want to share the top 3 stories, and so leading up to the retreat, you were going back and forth on it, right? Some of the guys had already purchased tickets 3 months, 4 months out, right? And so they, I remember at one point Jason from Florida had his countdown and always sending messages about it, saying, hey, this is the countdown. We have, X number of days left. Are you guys excited? Down to the minutes and all that stuff. And so, one of the thing about the first retreat that we did was that we wanted to come at it with absolutely no attachment to any kind of schedule, any kind of routine or anything. And what's the backstory of that even? See, we can go even deeper. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Disappeared. Wow. Where was I going? So the first retreat, I kind of trying to figure out how to plan it and everything. And I have a lot of groups that I'm not a part of, but I know the people who run them. And you see their posts and stuff, and they have, branded materials, and they have, a whole set of, booklets or notebooks and branded for them. And they have gurus and experts and leaders who are, going to be the keynote speakers and all these things that, to me was fluff, right? It would be nice, right, to have branded knives or what have you. We were just not there yet, right? And there was only going to be 4 of us on the trip at most, for the first retreat. And I remember feeling super heavy, and it was burdensome for the retreat, because, oh my goodness, because I want all these things. There's this attachment, and there's I guess a worldly expectation for how a retreat should look, and why there should be this and why there should be that. And I just remember getting on the call with Dan and Nate and just saying to them hey, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I'm feeling very heavy. I'm not the type to be adhering to a schedule, but I also want to be respectful of you guys and what you want the retreat to look like. I don't want to, dictate myself too much on it. Would it be okay if we just kind of, went with the flow, right? Just see where life takes us. And really, you've heard me beat this dead horse, because that's exactly what we did, right? It's just land, and all we figured out really was what we were driving and where we were staying, and that was about it. So leading up into the second retreat, there were a few things that we said we'd want to do together. One of them was to take a cold dip together. And so leading up to this day, actually, I think this was on the second or maybe the third day together. Second day. It was the second day together. I think it was the second day together. Maybe the first day together. Anyways, we were looking at going up to Garibaldi, right? We'd been saying going to Lake Garibaldi to have a look. It's a nice, really nice glacial lake up in Whistler, and we talked about going to Whistler as well. It'd be a wonderful trip to go up that way. And I remember, the day before, I think that was the night that you arrived. That was that was actually the first official day of the retreat, but because he was arriving so late, that was so we had to figure out, what was the plan, what was the schedule, because we're all going by the flow. We just didn't know what should we do, what was going to be in store. And as we were looking leading up to it, we're like, oh, we just realized that Lake Garibaldi requires a day pass to go up there, and they're all sold out. So we're like, okay, so that means that we can't really go to Garibaldi, and just kind of didn't make much sense for us to make such a long drive just to get up there. And then also you have to do an immense hike, right? And so, strategically and logically, there just wasn't enough time in the day to do something like that, to drive 3 hours to the location and then hike, who knows, another 5 hours just to get up there, do the dip, and then do that all back again. That's easily another 6 hours, right? That's easily 18 hours right there, 16 hours, right? That you got to devote to that whole thing. And it just sounds tiring, right? Like, one of the things about these retreats is that I don't want it to be like a cruise ship experience where you're kind of jumping from one activity to the other and you're just jam packing your day nonstop, adhering to this schedule. Like, people get on cruises and come off of them saying like they're more tired after getting on it. Like, they've just been so go all the time. I'm one of those people that likes to sit in the hotel, take it easy, right? What do I feel like eating? I'll figure it out whenever I feel like eating, and just go with it. And really, that's really a dad thing, I feel, right? And all 5 of the guys that came all shared that sentiment. And so we were looking at, maybe we go to Golden Ears, right? And Golden Ears is right behind me in the background, as you can see right here. Why don't we just go to Golden Ears, because it's so close by. But guess what? Golden Ears also requires a day pass, and they were all sold out. And there was also a moment where we went to where I was talking to Perry, and somebody was telling us how you could essentially drive into Golden Ears, and whenever they ask you if you have a day pass, you just tell a fib and say, yes, I have a day pass, and you'd be able to go in. This isn't me telling you to perform any kind of criminality. I told Perry this. I was like, yeah, we could do something like that. And in my heart, obviously, I don't like that kind of I don't like living like that. I don't like living in falsehood, and to me, that's, even though it's such a small little lie, it's evil. It's, for me, it's wrong. And so I told him that I felt like that was not the right thing to do, and that I don't want my kids to see me doing that. And Perry was in agreement, and so we ended up just saying, what, let's just go find another place to hang out. I heard about, I'd been to Rolly Lake before, and I suggested to the guys, hey, let's go to Rolly Lake and let's just spend the day there. There's a nice little beach there. We can have a barbecue, and so that morning we went to Walmart and we did that, grabbed all the stuff, food or what have you, and we all headed out to the lake. And it was, as we were going, Perry, found that there was a falls there. There's a little spot there that you can swim in, and I didn't know that. I knew that there was a falls there, but I didn't know that you could swim there. And so went to Rolly Lake, and we're like, there's a falls there. Like, let's go check it out. And so my wife and my kids stayed at the beach, and we just took this little hike out into this area. It took about it took a little bit of a hike for us to get there, but we came upon it and we're just like, wow, like blown away by the whole place. Actually, maybe I should pull that up, because I do have those photos, and to share more of them with you, because it was quite an experience. So this is my let's see, get rid of this. Make sure I get rid of this too. So this is the shared album that we had together, and so here, Rolly Lake, right? We're driving in. Obviously, this is the beach area, and then so once we dropped off our stuff, we blew up kind of the floaties. My kids went to go play. My wife just watched our stuff, and we just started hiking. We just started our little hike, right? So we're just journeying along together. It was good chit chat, laughs, jokes, right? Like, semi-inappropriate jokes, right? Just bunch of guys that just, we've shared space together for so long. We've gone to a depth together that nobody, that not many have, and so, whenever we finally got together, it was just like, man, we're just like 2 peas in a pod, right? Like 5-6 peas in a pod. And so we took the hike out there across this like little wooden rickety bridge, and this is kind of that spot, right? You see the water is just flowing down.
Oh yeah, it's a camera on mine. Really close.
Right, so it's really, it was legit. And so we went into the water, and it was the perfect temperature. And actually, this is the runoff of the lake itself. It wasn't cold enough for us to consider it a cold dip. But it was very nice. It was such an enjoyable experience. And actually for Nate and myself, Nate was part of the first retreat. We both, the very first day on that retreat, went to a natural spring where we swam. And this harkened back to that for us. This was a wonderful, surreal experience to be doing this with new guys at a different place. What was amazing later on is that we found out that you could actually climb up the side of this fall and actually jump into this area. It's actually deep enough for you to do that. And we got some of them just like dipping in the water and pretending to be dead and taking it. So we pretended that Nate drowned, and we sent a picture, or Perry sent a picture of that to Angela and told her that he was dead. Not exactly a funny, not exactly a funny thing to say on a trip whenever we're gone, but Nate's wife took it, with humor, and it was just a good, funny old laugh. And so we spent like, I don't know, felt like we spent like 2 hours at this place, and we just like jumping into the water. I think we have pictures of that somewhere here. Yeah, you see there that Jason's like jumping into the water even, right? Perry jumped in the water. I jumped in the water. Nate jumped in the water, right? Charles and you kind of were a little bit reluctant to do that. And that's okay. There's no pressure to, do everything else, with us. And so, just when I look at this picture, I'm reminded where we were, the belly laughs that we had in the water, and the things that we were joking about, and it was just wonderful to share that space with them. And it didn't really matter, where we were, and it really didn't matter what we were doing so much as we were doing it together. And that was the beauty of our retreats, and it was reaffirmed in that moment. And so this picture is, there's so much behind this. So I want to take back to this here, and so I'm going to show you exactly where and when and what happened. So Jason, pictured here, he had a trip mishap, in the sense that he had a connecting flight, didn't connect properly, and he had to figure it out at the airport in San Diego, and he finally figured it out. But for whatever reason, his suitcase was not connected onto the flight, and so he arrived and his suitcase was still nowhere to be found. He couldn't claim it, couldn't find it. And so the whole time, at the beginning of the retreat, was really him just being on the phone, talking with the airlines, trying to coordinate, figure out who's doing what, and he just kept getting the runaround. And it was really, really frustrating because, at one point, because he has an AirTag on it, he knows where the bag is, and he's telling these airlines, and they just aren't cooperating with him. And it's like, this airline doesn't want to do this, and then that airline says they're going to do this, and they just couldn't connect with each other, the pieces, and it's like, whose responsibility ultimately is it? Talking with the credit card companies and all this stuff. And so he was just getting more and more frustrated with the whole process of it all. And I remember it coming to a head that night because he was just like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to take part in anything if with this happening. And so that night he verbalizes to me that he's not going to join us the next day, and thinking that maybe just stay back and, we'll and he'd deal with this, this thing, and we, should go enjoy the rest of the retreat, while he deals with this, because, he wants to get this sorted. And that sit really heavy with me, right? Really, really heavy with me. And I remember in that moment, he went to go, I think he went to go take a shower to freshen up again. And and the boys at that point had already, they went out to Walmart. So one of the things that the boys did a lot was go to Walmart. And so when I say, it didn't really matter what we did together so much as we were doing it together. This was one of those things, is that they went to Walmart a lot, and they had a blast together, so you could see kind of they're trying on, clothes and what have you. And so I'm sitting outside on the sidewalk waiting for them to return, because all of them were out of the house, and I wanted to, not really ambush them, but, give them the heads up that Jason had said this. And in my heart already, I knew that if Jason was staying behind, we'd change our plans and that we'd figure out something else. And so they came back. and I, told them, hey guys, like Jason is, planning on not joining us tomorrow. Like, let's change our plans if we have to. And all the boys were on board, right? On board, right? They knew, right? They completely had no agenda, nothing. They came unattached, and they were okay with it. And the funny thing was, they had this outfit, this ridiculous outfit. So I mean, you can see Perry's wearing it right here in this picture, but they were like, hey Theo, and they pulled out my a set for me, and I looked at it and I was like, that's hilarious. And they were all wearing this outfit already. And so literally I remember right there, I just took off my clothes on my sidewalk outside of my house, and I just put it on. And it was, and if you don't know, is like these shorts are boxer briefs, and so there's a hole, where my crotch area is, and it's just a really ugly outfit, not one that you'd wear publicly. Backstory behind that was, one of the guys was, saying to the others, like, hey, like, I would put this on, and then Charles was like, oh, that's a really ugly shirt, and then he was like, oh, I'll get one if you get one. And it just spurred on from there. It just spiraled out of control, and they all got one, and we all ended up getting one. And so that picture that you see in this photo slideshow is all of us dressed in that. And so as soon as we get inside to give Jason, clothes, because he's got none, hey, here's the set of clothes, Jason's all on board suddenly, and we're like, okay, so what are we doing tomorrow? Okay, we're not going to drive into downtown. Let's take the SkyTrain. Let's take the SkyTrain into downtown and just spend the day in downtown together, right? We get to go see Granville Island, go see all the sites in the downtown area. And so that's what we did. Woke up in the morning, we drove out to a park and ride in another city, hopped onto a SkyTrain, and we booked it out from there. And so you can see it kind of here on this picture right here. So we're all kind of lining up to take a photo together. And this is the group shot before we hit the road there, to get on the SkyTrain together. And it's just the amount of looks that we got. People thought that we were on a, it was like a bachelor party or a stag or something. And but what's crazy about this whole experience was that there was an energy about us. There was a love of life energy, and it rubbed off on people. You could see people were smiling and laughing and giggling at us, and just a chuckle. And we didn't have a care in the world. We didn't care that whatever these people were thinking, we were just having a good old time. And so, like, we literally just journeyed our way through downtown, went to Granville Island, and then we took a little sea bus thing, I guess you call it, like an aqua bus, and went out to go get, because one of the things we said we'd do was go eat some poutine. And the place that I thought about, it's called Fritz Poutine, it's not on that side of the island, and so, or a peninsula, whatever. So we took the aqua bus to Hornby Street, and from Hornby Street we walked to get poutine. Right, this is where we kind of enjoyed an amazing poutine. Right, it's delicious with the right people and good laughs and giggles, and it just made the meal that much better. So we got on and then did that, and then after we did that, walked back to the aqua bus and took it to back to Granville Island, and then we explored the rest of downtown. The interesting thing is pictured here as we were leaving downtown, leaving the Granville Island. We started to walk, and all of a sudden I see this like parade of naked people on bikes, because apparently this weekend that we were touring Vancouver, they had extended the Pride Week thing beyond July, right? July was a month of Pride or whatever they call it, and they extended it because there's apparently a kink festival in Vancouver, and it didn't end until like August the 4th or something. So anyways, they extended it. So as I was literally walking out of Granville Island, I see this parade of naked people on bikes. Like I don't know if some were wearing thongs, whatever. I didn't look to check it. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, whoa, 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 nope, we're turning back around. Because first of all, if you don't notice, my kids are in this picture, right? I'm holding my daughter here, and my son is in it. I don't want to have to explain to them. I know the guys, if they see something like that, okay, like, I mean, they're adults. They already know how to deal with things like that. They're almost expecting these things to happen. But for my kids, I just didn't want anything to do with that. And we just turned back around, and we waited for them to pass, and then that's when we left. But that day was just so amazing. We just hung out by the convention center area. Saw some street performers, and that's when we took this photo right here, where we're just a good old photo together, and just all wearing the same ridiculous outfits. And there was people staring at us, and there was a guy that stopped by to ask us, "Hey, what are you guys doing? How come you guys are dressed like this?" And we shared kind of what we're doing and what we were a part of, and it was just it was an amazing experience. And just, you had to be there to feel all of it, because there's so many things that I can't put words to them. And it just boggles my mind of, wow, that actually took place, like that actually happened. And so that was our event that day, and it wasn't even over after that. We headed back on the SkyTrain, and we ended up going to check out the Caribbean Festival. And Charles right here, pictured here, is from the Caribbean, and so this was kind of his, showing us of what his culture is, and what is it to be Caribbean. And we tried out good food. He ordered in his native language. It was just such an experience. And so, one last story, and this is probably the highlight of the entire trip for us. And the other thing that we said that we would do, aside from doing a cold dip, eating poutine, the other thing was also saying that we would go to church together. And it was a surreal experience. And I'm going to show the picture here of us at the church, right, getting ready to everybody came so unattached. Everybody came so unexpectant, right? Not holding this pent up expectation of something to expect. And so we showed up, and it was an unbelievable sermon that my pastor gave. And it was so interesting, because as soon as he started talking, he said, we'd been doing a series on David, and he said, well, I'm not going according to the series today. I have a special message that I felt God was putting on my heart to share. And he just started to go off and saying, God wants your heart. And as soon as he said that, I knew in my heart and in my spirit that message was specifically for one guy on our trip, and maybe for the rest of us as well, because you see in this picture, the person sitting here with the hat is Perry. And during the sermon, as Dwayne was preaching, my pastor here, pictured here, Perry yelled out saying, "Are you talking to me?" Like, kind of like, "Are you talking directly to me?" And obviously, if you haven't been to church, that's an experience that you have all the time, right? You almost feel like the pastor's talking directly to you, or the word is talking directly to you. And and so Perry yelled out during the sermon, and everybody that was at the church they've come to me before now, like after that event, after that Sunday, on following Sundays, and said, "Man, that was such a surreal thing to see him lean in the way that he did." At the end of the sermon, pastor did kind of a semi altar call, saying, "Hey, if you need if you need to be in that space and you need to accept that invitation, please come up to the front and spend that time," right? And Perry stands up and goes, that means I have to be up there. And so he walks up and he sits down, and I remember waiting a few bit, because like the Pastor Dwayne was singing some old songs, some old worship songs, and I remember praying in my heart. I was like, "Wow, Lord, like this is actually happening. I can't believe it." And I just felt like I needed to go up and support him. So I, went up there, sat right next to him, put my hand on him, and just prayed over him, right? And really the waterworks started to come out, because, I've prayed for Perry for a long time, and these are brothers, and also the other guys as well. I've prayed for them for a long time. And, the whole journey for Perry coming down to Vancouver was not an easy one as well. A lot of turmoil, a lot of drama, and we'd had conversations about it, and I knew that there was something going on with his heart. And, so as soon as Dwayne said, "God wants your heart," I knew that message was directly for Perry. It was just the message that he needed to hear. And it was amazing. As we were sitting out there, suddenly I feel a hand on my back, and it's, my brother Wes, who's another member of ours, and he's praying over me. and over the guys, and I'm just bawling at this point. I look back and I see Nate is right behind me, and he's the one that takes this photo, takes this shot. He could have very easily been present and didn't take a photo of it. But you see you sitting right next to him, Charles in front of him, and actually not pictured is actually Jason, right next to Charles in front of Perry. And all of us leaned in, all 6 of us leaned in, and it was just such a special moment. And afterwards we were kind of talking because we went to the beach afterwards, because you had to leave. So we had a meal. We shared a meal at Fat Burger, and then amazingly you can see Perry's talking to my daughter. Right, they're just having a good old time. And so we took our adventure to the beach. You packed all his stuff, and that was where we said goodbye to you, as we dropped him off at the airport, and said goodbye. But kind of asking them, what they think about it, and it was so raw, right? Everything was so raw because leading up to that day, we're all just kind of still reeling from every single day. Like you just never catch up because you're living this lightning in the bottle, right? And you're so present, and you don't really slow down to think about, wow, what just happened. And so there were multiple times where we did sit around to talk and chat and stuff, but it wasn't deep enough. There just wasn't deep enough. And just that's just how retreats really go. You just have to be present and enjoy the moment. And so I asked them, what did they think about that whole experience? Like words came out jumbled. Like we were trying to be present also because we were kind of walking on the beach and just checking out things and looking at little crabs and little shellfish or whatever it is. And it was just this surreal moment that everybody agreed was this very spiritual moment, and they all agree and all say that felt like God met us in this place. And I knew leading up to this moment that God was going to do something crazy. I have no idea what was said in each of the guys' hearts. And it doesn't really matter, right? It's not about me. It's not about my words, and it's not about what I want for this to happen, right? I don't care. I care. I just don't want it to be about me. It's not about me. It's about God and their relationship, and that's all deep down in my heart. That's truly all I care about. And because maybe I don't know what was said in those moments, it's not lost on me. I'm blown away by that whole experience. And, members of my church have come to me and said, wow, that was a special thing, getting to see that. And they've all, been very encouraging in saying that they're going to continue praying for our group, and they see the purpose in the work that we're doing. And it was reassuring for me. So, the retreat for me was just surreal. I want more of it. I want to do more of it. And I want to improve on it. There's a lot of things that we could do better, and so we're already starting to plan, starting to think, what is that going to look like? Can we invite family members as well? Is there, logistics? There's things to pioneer and things to try out, and we're figuring our way through it. And the wonderful thing about this whole experience is that it makes sharing the mission that much more. It makes it easier. It makes it more effective, right? And the posts have gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of people have messaged me. Whether or not they sign on, it's a different thing. I'm not attached to it. Just got to let go of it. Just got to be okay with where things are at. But it was overall just a general amazing experience, and it's hard to find the words to explain such a visceral experience, almost as if you're explaining a concert to a grasshopper. It just won't comprehend. You just had to be there to witness it. And so, if you're a father that's listening to this and wondering, man, I want to get in on something like that, just know that this retreat was not a retreat in its own. The reason we went to the depth that we did was because we'd shared space together on a weekly basis through the nitty gritty, through the good times and the bad times. Like if you're a father that wants a community, but you're only there, when it's fair weathered, like you're gone when it's fair weathered, and whenever things get rough, then you come back to us. Like this isn't the community for you. Like it's one in which, like Dwayne said, each of us had to give our left nut just to be there. Like, we sacrificed a lot to be there. I know they're coming to me and my house, and so yeah, one might say that I sacrificed less. But they came into my house. I had to prepare for it. My wife had to prepare for it. My kids had to prepare for it. This whole thing wouldn't have happened if it weren't for obedience on my behalf, to start the group and to continue and to see it through. And so we all, yes, sacrificed a tremendous amount just to make this trip a reality. And we're all walking away with eternal memories. These are things that we will walk away with forever. We may not be able to put the words into a journal adequately and properly, for good reason. Is that it was meant to be present on, and we were, and it was just a wonderful experience. So if you're one of those dads and you want that community, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to help you get to the next steps, and for you to join some of our meetups, because it's really amazing the spaces that are held for men. Is when the terms are set of safety and confidentiality and unconditional listening, is that magic happens, and people come through and come to life, and growth happens. It's amazing the kind of growth that we see in our group. Custody battles, ugly divorces, ugly separations, mental health struggles, business struggles, work struggles, suicide, so many different things I see people make progress on. It's like they just come to life, and it's inevitable. The growth is there. And what do they really do? They just show up on the weekly calls and just hold space for one another. And that's it. There's really nobody is, saying a prayer over you or putting a hand on you. And we're not even a religious group. We're just a group of fathers who are being intentional and being present with one another. And so I want to end this episode here. Thank you for joining me again. And always remember that we are not promised tomorrow. So be present and stay noble. Bye for now.